Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you might find yourself in the world. I am Lisa Allen-McLaurin, and I am thankful to be here at the Institute for Religion and Disability. I want to thank Kathy and Bill and everyone who is part of the planning team, part of the coordinating council for this gracious invitation. I am delighted and excited about being here with you. And to give this presentation on Juneteenth. So we are thankful for the actual holiday of Juneteenth. And I'm hoping that everybody has now had an opportunity to either look up Juneteenth or research Juneteenth or Google Juneteenth, or I think the persons who did the meditation this morning spoke about Juneteenth. Dr. Hardwick gave us a bit about it. So let me just say a word as a way of introducing this talk. Dr. Hardwick talked about the commodification of bodies and the monetizing of bodies, and how the issue of bodies is really what fuels racism. And so Juneteenth is a prime example of how bodies did not know they were free. For almost 2 years after freedom came, Black bodies were still being commodified, still in bondage. After a presidential executive order came down, there still had to be armed troops to go through various parts of our country to alert and announce to people that they were now free, that their bodies were now free. And so as we talk about inclusion and embodiment, that's something that I would love for us to just kind of keep in our minds and our consciousness, that whole sectors of our country, of our society, were not free. And even after emancipation, freedom was announced, freedom came, we still were not free. And as Dr. Hardwick has reminded us, in some sense, we still yet in 20 and 24 are not free. So Juneteenth is important, not just because of the historical significance, but because it points to the resilience and the hope of African and African-descended peoples in this country and across the Americas. Now, what I'm going to talk about, which is how Black sacred music affirms embodiment and inclusion, I want us to continue to keep in our minds that this resilience and this hope, because it is evident in Black faith formation and the evolution of Black sacred music across centuries of time. Before we get into the music, I want to talk about the faith formation piece a bit. So it's very interesting to me when I hear people say that Christianity is the white man's religion, or Africans did not know God when they came to this country, because both of those things are entirely false. First of all, the oldest Christian church in the world is in Africa. It is the Coptic Church. And the second is unlike it, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Both of those are the oldest Christian fellowships, churches, denominations, if you will, in the world. This is where Christianity was birthed, in Africa. Now, whether the persons who were brought to these shores had been introduced to Christianity, because many of them were from the western coast of Africa, maybe perhaps not. However, whether they were introduced to Christianity or not, they knew God. Because as scholar John Embodiment and others tell us, African peoples have always had an understanding of who God is. So Africans did not arrive here tabula rasa, blank slates, but with their own cosmological and theological understandings of their world. So I want to talk about a few of those understandings. African peoples had an understanding of the Most High Supreme God, monotheistic, with lesser divinities who worked to do the will of God. But the Most High Supreme God was just, protector, defender, judge, and liberator. Though they saw this God as transcendent, God was still immanent and intimately concerned with justice and liberation for all people. The second cosmological worldview I want to talk about is kinship. So in an African construct, to be human was not to be mainly individualistic, but to be part of a community. That was how you functioned. There was dynamic interplay between community and individual. Whatever happened to the community affected the individual, and whatever happened to the individual had an impact in the community. The third cosmological worldview I want us to understand is sacred cosmos. Now, I'm telling you all of this because I'm laying the groundwork for the music that we're going to talk about. Sacred cosmos, grounded in a relational and communal ontology, a way of being. It wasn't that people had to think about the community. That was part and parcel of who they were. Humanity is divinely linked, related to, and involved with all of creation, which results in holistic relationships and responses that honor, respect, hear, and acknowledge the entire universe as the Creator's handiwork, and how one is called to be part of that. And then, this is the last cosmological view I'm going to talk about. These are not the only ones. This is not an inclusive list. But no separation of sacred and secular. This duality between flesh and spirit is not an African construct. All of life is considered sacred. So this is how Africans and their descendants in America knew, once they were allowed to be in the slaveholders' church or to be preached to on plantations, because that did not happen initially. The only reason that Africans were allowed and their descendants were allowed to be part of these churches or to even hear, quote unquote, the gospel was because of slave revolts that had started to occur. And so the slaveholders thought, okay, well, now maybe we need to Christianize them so they don't rise up in the middle of the night and kill us in our sleep. So once they started being able to attend or to sit outside and listen or to have someone come and preach this version of Christianity, they knew that what they were being taught and what they were being told in these churches, in these worship services, was not true. The main thing, if you will read works by Rabbitoe and Herskovitz and C. Eric Lincoln and other historians, Lawrence Levine, they will all say that the main thing that was preached to African and African-descended people in the context of enslavement was slaves obey your masters. Be a good slave. And with that, and Dr. Hardwick kind of alluded to this in his talk, he talked about the theological understandings of what was being taught and what was being preached. Well, these were theologies that undergirded Puritanism and Anglicanism, which were two of the main theological doctrinal understandings of what was being taught in the colonies, in what would become America. And part of those theologies, in those theologies ran a very deep, very wide thread of anti-Blackness. And it came through in theological constructs like visible sainthood, where he was talking about how you looked determined whether or not you were saved. Visible sainthood. The Puritans believed that you should be able to look at a person and determine, you could look at them and determine they were saved by how they looked. And how did they look? They looked European. They looked what would become to be known as white. And so Africans and their descendants could not be saved because they were not white, they were black. And what had been taught and what had been propagated among peoples, particularly from colonization, from explorers who had gone into various parts of Africa and the Caribbean, was that these people were dark-skinned, and the prevailing sentiment about the devil was that the devil was black. And so the darker you were, the more close to evil you were, the closer to evil you were. And so in order to even begin to approach being saved, you had to aspire to whiteness. So visible sainthood, divine superiority, because of who we are better. Hereditary heathenism, because you were born of color or born of a darker shade, you were a heathen and you had to be saved. Now, how did you get saved? You got saved by being washed white in the white blood of Jesus, who was white. And so if we look at some of the hymns in particular, in some of our faith traditions, you see that language coming through. Wash me whiter than snow, Lord. In some of our liturgies, communion liturgies, baptismal liturgies, where we talk about being made pure. Pure always equals to white, and we use white vestments, and we use white paraments, and we use white. But what African and African descended peoples knew inherently was that they were created good. They brought that with them to these shores. They brought with them the understandings that God was a just God, and God would come to free them. God would come to liberate them. They had an idea that the whole community, not just them individually, would be saved, but the community, the communal understanding was that we will all be saved. And so we can hear this in lyrics of Black sacred music, from spirituals to hymns to gospels, the evidence of African cosmological and theological beliefs, which had an overwhelmingly inclusive bent, as well as an affirmation of the sacrality and divine relationality of all creation. So now that we've laid that kind of groundwork, let's talk about the music a little bit. Let's talk about the music. What makes the music that Africans and their descendants, that Africans brought to these shores and their descendants continue, what makes it unique? Well, first of all, call and response. So, for example, if I say something like, have you got good religion? Certainly, Lord. Have you got good religion? Certainly, Lord. So that idea of the leader calls out and the people respond. This call and response. And as we're going to see, leader meant just the person who called out the next verse. Have you been to the pool? Certainly, Lord. Have you been to the pool? Certainly, Lord. So call and response. That's communal. And everybody has an opportunity to participate. Extensive melodic ornamentation. So when singing, Africans and their descendants did not and do not just sing a line straight. So if someone is singing, 'tis so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take him at his word, just to rest upon his promise, and to know thus saith the Lord. Black folk are not going to sing that like that. 'Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take him at his word, just to rest upon his promise, and to know thus saith the Lord. Extensive melodic ornamentation. Complex rhythmic structures. So syncopation, cross rhythms, polyrhythms, multimetricity is part and parcel of what we call Black music. And then communal singing. So what we're gonna see across time, across history, from the antebellum period on, is whenever African and African descended people are part of a gathering, there's going to be communal singing, and there's going to be this extemporaneous addition of verses and choruses. This is how we came to get many of the hymns that we have now. They were not originally written in the ways that we sing them, but during the Great Awakenings of the 17th and 18th centuries, Black persons who were part of these gatherings added these choruses. They added verses. And so this kind of adding of this communal singing, instrumentation, including body instrumentation, clapping, patting, stomping, playing other instruments, the drums, of course, and then other instruments as they were able to have them. And then dance, which was a natural outgrowth of this musical piece. Another unique characteristic of African and African American and Black music, improvisation. So again, this is a way that Black people embodied the music because they made it their own. They improvised. They took what was given and they added. They stretched. They pulled. And made it often something brand new. So, of course, this is where we get jazz and all of its outshoots. And then imagination and adaptability. So as we're talking about embodiment and inclusion, that is how we embody and include all persons who are part of, because we say there's no wrong verse. There's no wrong melody. There's no wrong harmony, as long as it fits in with what the community is doing. Now, you can't just go off and start something in a whole nother key while we're singing in this key. But we might modulate. If you modulate, we might go with you. So every voice matters. And then adaptability, the flexibility of being able to take something and bring it to a whole new kind of understanding, because we have added our own voices to it. So several of these speak to the inclusive nature of Black music in general and Black sacred music in particular. Call and response, improvisation, communal singing, especially the extemporaneity of it. Creating on the spot, making it on the spot, doing it on the spot. Instrumentation, dance, imagination, adaptability. So let's talk about a few of these. So if we talk about, start with spirituals. So spirituals, of course, came out of the lived experiences of Africans and their descendants. And in many of the spirituals that were developed, because if you read just kind of an overview, you will not get the depth of what spirituals really mean. Because sometimes what we teach people is, spirituals came up because people needed some music to work by, they needed something to make the day pass. No. That might have been byproducts. But the real reason that spirituals came to be was because people sang out of what they were feeling. They were expressing their despair, their anger, their rage, their doubt, their not understanding, but also their joy, their hope. So let's take this piece, I Got Shoes. I got shoes, you got shoes, all of God's children got shoes. When I get to heaven, gonna put on my shoes, gonna march all over God's heaven. So now what are they saying there? Why I got shoes? Because many of them did not have shoes. Or if they had shoes, the shoes did not fit. And they had one pair of shoes for the whole year. So if they grew out of them, or they were not comfortable, or they had to put paper in them to make them fit, or they had to cut the toes out so they could fit, those are the shoes. But when I get to heaven, I'm going to have a pair of shoes that fit me. But not only am I going to have a pair of shoes, you're going to have some shoes. All of God's children got shoes. So whether down here you keep me from having shoes, that's all right, because there's going to come a day that God has promised that I'm going to have some shoes. But not only am I going to have shoes, I got a robe, you got a robe, all of God's children got a robe. So for you all telling me that I have to aspire to whiteness to get to heaven, I say fie on you. Because when I get to heaven, gonna put on my robe, gonna shout all over God's heaven. Now, but not only do I have a robe, I got a crown, you got a crown, all of God's children got a crown. Because now I'm telling you, not only am I going to get to heaven, but I'm going to be one of the first ones. I'm walking around, I'm marching around, I'm shouting around with my crown that God is going to give me. When I get to heaven, gonna put on my crown, gonna shout all over God's heaven. And then they had to add a little shade to it. Heaven, heaven, everybody talking about heaven, ain't going there. Heaven, gonna march all over God's heaven. So then a song like, didn't my Lord deliver Daniel? Deliver Daniel, deliver Daniel. Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel? And why not every man? So, as they were learning these biblical narratives about these biblical heroes and sheroes who would call on God, saying that God shut the lion's mouth and rescued Daniel. Okay, so if God did that for Daniel, why not everyone? He delivered Daniel from the lion's den, Jonah from the belly of the whale, and the Hebrew boys from the fiery furnace. So why not everyone? Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel? So they're asking this theological question. Deliver Daniel, deliver Daniel. Didn't my Lord deliver Daniel? And why not everyone? Now, that's another way that our ancestors embodied this music and embodied the very questions. These are theological questions that they are asking in the music. So they are actually questioning what they are hearing in the slaveholders' churches or from the preacher that the slaveholder put out in the community to preach to them. Why should we stay in bondage? If God delivered Daniel, then why not me as well? The other ways that there were, they had ideas of inclusion was by acknowledging the emotional states that people may have been in their music. Kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya. Kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya. Kumbaya, my Lord, kumbaya. Oh Lord, kumbaya. And kumbaya is African for come by here. So, God, since you are just, since you are protector and defender, come by here and see about us. Why? Because somebody's crying, Lord, come by here. Somebody's crying, Lord, come by here. Somebody's crying, Lord, come by here. Oh, Lord, come by here. But not only is somebody crying, somebody's praying, Lord, come by here. Somebody's praying, Lord, come by here. Somebody's praying, Lord, come by here. Oh, Lord, come by here. But lest you think that we are only going to acknowledge despair and doubt and anguish, somebody's shouting, Lord, come by here. Somebody's shouting, Lord, come by here. Somebody's shouting, Lord, come by here. Oh, Lord, come by here. And somebody's singing, Lord, come by here. So the full gamut of what the community is experiencing. Somebody's singing, Lord, come by here. Somebody's singing, Lord, come by here. Oh, Lord, come by here. And then we're going to end with availing to you, God, wherever we may find ourselves. Somebody needs you, Lord, come by here. Somebody needs you, Lord, come by here. We don't know what the need is, but whatever it is, somebody needs you, Lord, come by here. Oh, Lord, won't you come by here? So one of the ways that Africans and their descendants included everybody was to take into account these biblical narratives and then to translate them into lyrics that acknowledged we were in some of the same spaces, in some of the same places. I am a poor pilgrim of sorrow. I'm left in this wide world alone. I've heard of a city called heaven. I'm trying to make it my home. Sometimes I am tossed and I'm driven. Sometimes I don't know where to roam. I've heard of a city called heaven. I'm trying to make it my home. And also what those types of songs did was they really pushed back against the certainty of salvation that those in the slaveholders' churches and afterward, this kind of theological certainty that we will be saved. They are pushing back and saying, not necessarily so. And we will not necessarily claim theological certainty for us individually, but what we will say is we are poor pilgrims of sorrow, just like Jesus, the suffering servant. I am a poor pilgrim of sorrow. And where am I? I'm left in this wide world alone. Because sometimes I feel alone. I've heard of a city called heaven, but there is hope. I'm trying to make it my home. But I'm acknowledging that I don't always feel the presence of God near me. Sometimes I'm tossed and I'm driven, Lord. Sometimes I don't know nowhere to roam. But I've heard of a city called heaven. I'm trying to make it my home. Ashe. And then there were songs, there were spirituals that openly rejoiced in the communal nature of humanity. And I mean, really pushed right in the face of racist teachings, racist practices. As you all are teaching us about this God you think we don't know anything about, let us tell you what we do know about this God. He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 Whether you think I'm included or not, what I know about God, he's got the little bitty baby in his hands. He's got the little bitty baby in his hands. He's got the little bitty baby in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. But not only that, he's got the sun and the moon. So, whether you think you own me, the one who holds the sun and the moon, the wind and the rain, who controls the elements, is the one who is holding me. He's got the sun and the moon in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. And then he's got you and me, brother, in his hands. He's got you and me, brother. In his hands, he's got you and me, brother and sister. In his hands, he's got the whole world in his hands. So then, songs like that. And then, what does then that empower us to do? That empowers us to let our own lights shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Won't let Satan blow it out. So in other words, no matter what you might try to do to me, I'm gonna let it shine. Won't let Satan blow it out. I'm gonna let it shine. Won't let Satan blow it out. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. And not just let it shine for me and my family, in my neighborhood. I'm gonna let it shine in my neighborhood. I'm gonna let it shine. And not only that, but everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Because I know I have the light of God within me, regardless of what you try to tell me. I know that I embody fully this light that has been placed inside of me. And so I'm going to let my light shine wherever I go. So let's move on then to some hymns. Hymnody. Just a couple of these. So Black hymn writers, again, took the experiences, the understandings of the witness of those in their communities, and they wrote hymns that directly reflect it. So you might not have heard the theological certainty of a mighty fortress is our God. But what you would have heard is the theological certainty of if when you give the best of your service, telling the world that the Savior is come, be not dismayed when men don't believe you. He'll understand and say, well done. That's a Lucy Campbell tune. Oh, when I come to the end of my journey, weary of life, but the battle is won, carrying the staff and cross of redemption. So it doesn't matter what has happened to me in this life, I have managed to carry this staff and this cross with me. And guess what? He'll understand and he'll say, well done. So one of the most prolific hymn writers of black hymns, the Reverend Dr. Charles A. Tindley, many of his hymns evince that reality of life is difficult. And so if we're talking about embodiment and inclusion, full embodiment and inclusion, even those of us with privilege, because all of us sitting in here have, just using this room as an example, have privilege of some kind. Because we got the privilege to sit in a room in the middle of the day, listening to a fabulous presentation by a just glorious singer. No, stop, really don't. Some have more privilege than others, but clearly we all have privilege. But if we want to talk about full embodiment and inclusion, then we have to acknowledge that there are those, even of us in this room, who are in different places. And then once we go out of these doors, there are people who don't even begin to approach the level of privilege we have, who don't even begin to approach, even when we say, you know, we're fighting for this and we're fighting for that, to be able to fight is a privilege. So when Dr. Tindley says, if the world from you withhold of its silver and its gold, and you have to get along with meager fare, just remember in his word how he feeds the little bird. Take your burdens to the Lord and leave them there. Now if your body suffers pain, and your health you can't regain, and your soul is slowly sinking in despair, Jesus knows the pain you feel. He can save, child, he can heal. Take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. Not to say we don't have any burdens or we shouldn't have any burdens. We have them. But there's a place we can go. There's a God who is ready to hear and to listen and to heal in whatever the ways we need them to be addressed. His beams of heaven as I go through this wilderness below, guide my feet in peaceful ways, turn my Now, here's where he helps us to understand the trials and the tribulations. I do not know how long it will be. I don't know. Or what the future holds for me. But this is what I do know. But this I know. If Jesus leads me, I shall get home someday. And lest we think that might makes right and that the evil one will win, Dr. Tinley goes on to tell us, there is a God who rules above with hand of power and heart of love. And this I know, if Jesus leads me, I shall get home someday. Now, when we talk about moving on to the era of the civil rights movement, we hear some of these hymns and some of these songs being used again and being kind of reimagined for a wider, even wider audience, but with the same purpose, to help people know that there is a God who is just, who is a liberator for all people. So then songs like, ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round, ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, gonna keep on a walking, keep on a talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let Bull Connor turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let Bull Connor turn me round. Gonna keep on a marching, keep on a fighting, marching up the freedom land. And then songs like Hold On. Keep your hand on the plow, hold on. So the lyrics of if you want to get to heaven, I'll tell you how. Keep your hand on the gospel plow. Keep your hand on the plow, hold on, became the day that we got it right was the day we started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize and hold on. So this eschatological understanding of it will be all right. God will show up. God will be with us. God is for us. God comes through in songs like Tindley's I Shall Overcome, which in the civil rights movement became We Shall Overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. And then God is on our side. When is God is on our side? God is on our side today. Today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe God is on our side today. someday. And then because God is on our side, what will we do? We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. And so as we move forward through music, these African cosmologies of kinship, of sacred cosmos, of divine relationality continue to move us. Now I'm going to ask my son in the ministry, the Reverend Dr. John Paul McGee, who is assistant chair of the Department of Piano at Berklee School of Music here in Boston. Yay, he's fabulous. He's going to come and assist me. Yeah. So if we're looking at gospel music, we know that gospel comes out of urban areas when the Great Migrations were happening. Persons from Mississippi and down in Arkansas and different southern states moved up north. They moved to places like Chicago and Detroit and Flint and other places. And what they did was they found faith communities that affirmed them. Because all faith communities up there, even black ones, did not necessarily immigrants who were coming from the South. And so out of these churches, we get this understanding of this music that had this kind of urban touch and feel to it. Because they were playing blues. In some of these places, they were playing jazz. And so they took that, stay right there. How I got over, how I made it over, Lord. You know my soul look back and wonder how I got over. Well, just as soon as my feet strike Zion, I'm gonna lay down my heavy burden. Yes, I'm gonna put on my robe in glory, and I'm gonna shout one day and tell my story. You know I come over hills and mountains, on up to the crystal, all of the sons and daughters, living water. You know I gotta thank God, thank Him for being so good to me. So that kind of acknowledgement and putting out there that God is still yet seeing about all of us, taking care of us. Even if it has an I pronoun, in black faith communities, it was understood it meant we. It was understood it was for the whole entire community. And so they used gospel music to help push this understanding of telling our stories in a very authentic, embodied way. So I want to look at this piece called He Knows My Name. So this is a relatively recent gospel piece by Tasha Cobbs. But it speaks again to this cosmology of communality. He knows my name. 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 my name. He knows my name. He knows my name. So I don't have to worry about being forgotten because he knows my name. But not only does God know my name, and oh, how he walks with me. And oh, how he talks with me. No matter how somebody may just throw me aside, and how he tells me that I am his own. So now I pour out my heart to you. Here in your presence, I am made new. He knows my name. He knows my name. He knows my name. He knows my name. And oh, how you comfort me. It's important to you that I'm comforted. And oh, how you counsel me. And it still amazes me that I am your friend. He knows my name. He knows our names. He knows our names. He knows our names. No fire. No fire can burn me. No battle can turn me. No mountain can stop me. 'Cause you hold my hand. Now I'm walking in your victory. 'Cause your power is within me. No giant can defeat me. You hold my, oh, no fire can burn me. No can turn me. No mountain can stop me. 'Cause you hold my hand. Now I'm walking in your victory. And power is in me. No giant can defeat me. 'Cause you hold my hand. And it's not an exclusive understanding. God holds our hands. As I come to the last before the song I want us to sing together, there's another gospel that to me also encompasses this understanding of embodiment and inclusion. See, that's what's so beautiful about African descended and Black music. Well, there are many beautiful things about it, but one of the things that's so beautiful is that I can authentically speak whatever it is I am feeling. I don't have to hide it. And I know that I am still accepted. I am still affirmed. I am still within the bounds of safety of God. Because God is big to hear, to receive, to address, to acknowledge in the midst of it. So this piece is Brian Courtney Wilson's A Great Work. Sometimes there are obstacles in the road that can leave you feeling low, and you don't know how to move forward. Sometimes there are turns you want to take. The way gets hard to trace, and you're wondering, how did you get here? But don't you give up until you see how God is ordering your steps so you can move into your season. I declare you will know the favor of the Lord and receive a harvest for your seed. He who has begun a great work in you is faithful to perform it. God is faithful. One who has begun a great work in you is faithful to perform. Our God is faithful. The one who has begun a great work in you, and God has begun a great work in all of us, is faithful to perform it. God is faithful to you. Is faithful to perform it. Our God is faithful. And so what I'm hoping you have received in this presentation, not just a history lesson, not just some information, but inspiration, which is what Black music always does. It always inspires, always provides hope. And so if you go forth and you begin to listen to some of these, or you go back in history and you listen to some of the songs of our ancestors, I hope it will inspire you to draw the circle as wide as you possibly can. A great work, God's doing a great work in you. God is doing a great work. Great work. God's doing a great work in each and every one of us. Now, as we end, I'd like for us to, first of all, if you don't know all 3 verses of Lift Every Voice and Sing, you have a smartphone for a reason. So if you will Google lyrics to Lift Every Voice and Sing, I invite you to stand as you are able in body and or in spirit, and we are going to sing all 3 verses because that's how the song is supposed to be sung. All 3. Together. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has brought us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony, stony the road we bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the bright gleam of our bright star is cast. Now, we sing this very sweetly, and you have to watch the direction. Ready? God of our wearies, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee, shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. Amen. Thank you so much. God bless.